Hello and welcome to this application form guidance video for Key Action 201 Schools Exchange Partnership 2020. Before we start going through the form, just a couple of general points to note. The form automatically saves every 2 seconds. Mandatory fields are marked in red. These need to be filled in before you're able to submit the form. If a section is marked with a warning sign, this means that either there's some information or not inputted correctly. Most individual questions will be marked in the same way to make it easy to identify and fix the issues. We highly recommend that you have a copy of your application answers, for example, in a Word document, as should there be any technical issues with the application platform or internet connection, we really don't want you to lose your work. If at any point whilst filling out the form you encounter any technical issues, please take a screenshot and notify us immediately by email. So let's start. First of all, we shall look at the context. This table is information specific to your application. Please ensure that you're completing the correct application form by checking the call year, the key action, and the round on the right-hand side of the screen. As you can see on my screen now, there are a number of boxes that have a green bar. To the left, this means that the mandatory information required has been completed. If, however, I remove this information, the box would show red and it would tell me that the field is mandatory. So the main objective for the project, for Key Action 201, you will need to choose between innovation and exchange of good practices. I have chosen innovation. You will need to enter your project title, project acronym, and project start date. When you select your project duration, which can be anything from 12 to 36 months, this automatically populates the project end date. The national agency of the applicant organisation, if you scroll down, you will come to KA201 British Council. And again, from the drop-down box, scroll down and choose English for your chosen language. So just one tip on this section. When you're completing the date, please select the date from the drop-down calendar. If you decide to enter the date manually, please check whether it's in the correct format, otherwise the form may not validate. The format used throughout the form is the year, the month, and the day. So let's start. Participating organisations. So applicant organisation, this section asks applicants to provide information relating to the applicant organisation. You will need to ensure that yourself and all other organisations involved have an organisation ID. Please note that the organisation ID replaces the PIC as a unique identifier for the organisation to apply for Erasmus Plus or European Solidarity Corps actions managed by national agencies. The remaining part of this section of the form will be pre-filled using the information submitted on the European Commission's Organisation Registration System. Please check that this information is accurate and update the Organisation Registration System if necessary. As you can see, there's a warning sign here which indicates not all fields for my organisation have been completed. So I need to click on the legal name to the right and click on organisation details. Once you've entered your ID, the legal name and country fields will populate automatically. You will then need to select the organisation details and go through the form. So as you can see here, this is pre-populated. There are some details that still need completing, but please check all details are correct. You will need to select from the drop-down box the type of organisation, and the other boxes are pre-populated as well. So now on to associated persons. The legal representative is the person who is authorised to enter into a legal binding commitment on behalf of your school. This may be your head teacher or a senior member of your staff. If your application is approved, this person will also be the signatory for the grant agreement and the person who takes on the terms and conditions attached to the grant agreement on behalf of the organisation. Please complete every field in this section. If the address of the legal representative is different from the organisation address, you should provide additional address details. If the address of the legal signatory is the same, please click same address as organisation. I will just show you here. Just one thing to note, please ensure that the legal representative details are consistent throughout the application form and in the Declaration of Honour, which I will cover later. If there are any inconsistencies, your application may not be taken forward. Please notify the UK National Agency as soon as possible of any changes. So I will now go back to the contact person. So here we have the contact person. Please complete the same as the legal representative. We will use these details as a first point of contact for the application, and should it be successful in the grant, please bear in mind that we will need to be able to contact this person throughout the year, including school holidays. So please use an email address that you have access to all year round. We strongly recommend that the contact person for the application is different from the legal representative. If the address of the contact person is different from the organisation address, you should provide additional address details. If the same address of the contact person is the same as the organisation address, please click same address. I will just show you here, and as you can see, the person details are similar to that when you entered for the legal representative. Now you can select up to 3 contact persons. Please ensure that the contact person details are up to date and that those people will be available throughout the application process, as well as the project lifetime, including non-term dates. Please contact us as soon as possible if there are any changes. Now on to background and experience. The information in this section will inform the assessment of your organisation's capacity to manage the project and propose grants successfully. Please briefly present the schools and include the following information. Please be mindful that there's a character count, as indicated here, for each text box will be indicative of the expected length of your answer. Please make sure you include as much detail and justification as possible within all the narrative sections. Has this organisation participated in the European Union granted project in the last 3 years? If the answer is yes, please select year and include the project details and the grant, and you can add as many as possible and also delete year as well. Right, now on to your partner organisations. So the partner organisations can be entered here. As you can see, I've already entered some demonstration ones. You will need to go through the same process, entering all the details for your partner schools as you did for the applicant organisation. And you can view it here. Please note that a school exchange partnership should have a minimum of 2 partners from 2 different programme countries and a maximum of 6 partners, including the applicant. If you have more than 1 partner, then you will need to click on Add Partner. This can be done here. Please note that if you're copying and pasting the information, there might be a space at the beginning or the end, and this would cause an invalidation on the organisation ID number. Once you've completed this section, you can then move on to project description. So priorities and tools. Please select the most relevant priorities that will be addressed by your project. You can select up to 3 priorities. Please select the most relevant horizontal or sectorial priority according to the objectives of your project. Please select at least 1 horizontal priority. In the case of a horizontal priority, you will need to demonstrate how your application directly relates to and intends to impact the school education field. Additional priorities can be added by clicking on them on the drop-down list. The maximum amount of priorities you can select is 3. Important to note, please ensure you've selected the correct field when selecting specific priorities. Here are the example here. So once you've selected the topics, you can see there's a long list. Take into consideration your project's objectives. On to project description. You will need to answer a couple of questions. We highly recommend that you have a copy these answers, as mentioned earlier, for example, in a Word document, as there could be some technical issues with the application platform or internet connection. We really don't want you to lose your work. Also, preparing your answers beforehand in a Word document means that you can figure out your character count and edit accordingly. Fill in these answers with as much detail as possible. So we have participants indicate, please address all questions outlined in the section of the application. Here we have this year. The number of participants, please select how many will fall into this category. Given the number, as you see, you've got the box here. And then the types of situations that these participants are facing. Please select all relevant categories. So you will need then to enter some text in the narrative box. So what types of situations are these participants facing? How will you support these participants so they will fully engage in the planned activities? Once you've completed this section, you can now go on to preparation. Here, you will describe what you will do to implement during the preparation period before the actual project activities will take place. For example, administrative arrangements, communication about activities, promotion to local and wider community about details of safeguarding where minors or young people are involved, selection of the staff and improvement to the stakeholders. Again, this gives you a word count. On to management. So funds for project management and implementation. The form will automatically calculate the correct funding amount for the project management and implementation. These amounts should be added automatically based on the number of partners within the partnership and the selected project start and end date. Please refer to page 116 of the 2020 Programme Guide for eligible costs under this category. We will then need to go to learning and teacher training activities. We would expect this type of project, school exchange partnership, to have all teaching and training activities because they are the main part of the project. I will just show you then back onto the management, the transnational project meetings. Again, we have a narrative section, and then as you can see, details where we can add transnational project meetings. In this part, you must provide a description of the meetings planned. Be specific. How often do you plan to meet? Who will participate? Where will they take place? And what will be the goal of each meeting? So as you can see here, I've already entered some details. So describe here how these meetings will fit into the overall project design and how they're related to other activities of the project. So here we've entered 2 sending organisations, and we've also entered the country of the sending organisation, the number of participants, and the distance band calculator. So here we have to calculate the distance using the European Commission's distance calculator. The European Commission's distance calculator calculates every journey and a single journey. However, all Erasmus Plus application forms and the unit costs available have already been calculated based on a return journey. It's your responsibility to ensure the distances entered are correct. So you can add as many transnational project meetings as you require, and then we shall go back to implementation. For this section, please explain how the project activities lead to the achievement of the project objectives and delivery of the planned results. You should make clear how the work you and your partners will undertake over the lifetime of the project will enable you to achieve the objectives of your project, including as much detail as possible. Here we have a section on e-twinning and Erasmus Plus platforms. This section is not compulsory and you will be able to submit without completing it. However, if you do decide to use European platforms such as e-twinning or the School Education Gateway to support your project, you should provide full details here. Next, we will go on to intellectual outputs. So this section is automatically set to no. If you do plan to include intellectual outputs, please select yes here. Please note that if you've selected exchange of good practice as the main objective, this will automatically be no. So now I've selected yes. Here you can go through and staff costs for the management administration time for your project. Obviously, some have already been covered through the project management and implementation budget. These costs may be eligible for funding through the intellectual outputs category if the staff member's role working on the output is distinct from their regular role as project manager or administrator of the project. Information in regards to the intellectual outputs can be found on page 118 of the 2020 programme guide. So here you can see you can click to edit and add. I'll just show you an example here. So please specify the output title. I will just enter test, the description, the type from the drop-down box, the start date, again using the calendar, the end date, and then describe the work that will be undertaken. Select the languages, the media, the leading organisation, and the participating organisations. So please specify any staff resources here. And as you can see, the intellectual output budget has automatically appeared. So when you click on each one, you can then go into the details section. And as you can see, there are different levels for each level of category of staff. The category staff time that is selected must reflect the work the individual will conduct on that day, not their usual role in the organisation. To be considered as staff for the development of intellectual outputs, the individuals must be contractually linked to one of the organisations in the partnership, either on a professional or voluntary basis. In all cases, the beneficiary must be able to demonstrate a formal link with the staff member concerned, whether the person is involved in the project on a professional or voluntary basis. If you're applying for an innovation project, we will now go on to multiplier events. So we've got multiplier events here. You'll only be able to request funding for multiplier events as part of your project if you listed intellectual outputs. Multiplier events must be directly linked to sharing and disseminating the intellectual output to which they relate. Consequently, they should be planned to take place after the intellectual outputs have been completed to maximize the dissemination potential. Please see page 118 of the 2020 Programme Guide for the multiplier events unit cost rates. The maximum sum available for multiplier events funding is £30,000 per project. So I will just enter yes here. And as you can see, again, it's a similar format. So please enter the number of local from the host country and the number of foreign participants that will take place in your event and the event title. So I'm just going to select here the country of the venue. I will select as France, start date, and the end date. Then description in the narrative and the intellectual outputs covered. The leading organisation and the participating organisations. So here we come to the number, enter the number of local participants and the foreign participants who will take part in the event. Once you've entered the number of local and foreign participants, the application will automatically calculate the total budget for the multiplier event. I will just show you an example here. So as you can see, you will get a lump sum of €100 for each local participant and €200 for each foreign participant. As mentioned earlier, the total budget for multiplier events is €30,000. Click the Add button to add another multiplier event. That can be added here. Multiplier events can be hosted in the country of any of the associated partners involved in the strategic partnership if duly justified in relation to the objectives of the project. You will then need to go on to learning, teacher and training activities. So here I've already entered some. Learning, teaching and training activities can be funded in any strategic partnership project provided they are embedded within the broader activities and bring added value in terms of supporting the achievement of the project's objectives. You will need to make it clear how these activities will contribute to the wider project outcomes. You can find more information in regards to the available activities for strategic partnerships in the field of school education on page 106 to 107 of the 2020 programme guide. So as you can see here, I've already pre-populated some of these details. Please select your answers from the drop-down box here. And then you can edit here with the details. So here I've entered schools, I've selected short-term exchange of pupils, activity title, as this is a test, I'm just putting demonstration in here. The leading organisation, I've selected the French school, and the participating organisation, the British school. So you will need to select the duration, how many days the activity is going to last. The type of activity will have a minimum of 3 working days. So I'm going to say 3 days, and the country venue is France. And we've selected the starting period here as well. So for the description of the activity, it should be clear from each activity that it adds value and contributes to the overall objectives presented. Does the activity combine physical mobility with virtual exchanges through e-twinning? Please select yes or no. So as you can see here now, the budget has been pre-populated. So where we have the duration 3 days and the number of participants 10 and 3 accompanying persons. We have all the details here. So the teachers will be the accompanying persons and pupils will be the participants in this example. I'm then going to check the information provided for individual support, which are the subsistence costs, are correct. So we have children attending, and we will also have our accompanying persons. Please make sure all details are correct. So if teachers are going to be travelling with the children, which are going to request funding, you need to include this as well. Now, if you think you might need to travel the day before activities start or return, you can add up to 2 days to the individual support section for this. So you can increase the duration for both the participants and the accompanying persons. So you have the chance to ask for subsistence costs, food and accommodation for the day before and the day after the activity is taking place. And then for travel, please always remember to use the European Commission's distance calculator, which is the calculator icon to the right, and then choose the distance band, whichever is applicable. So that will automatically populate. And then you can see this has calculated how much funding will be paid, the grant per participant and the total travel. We also have exceptional costs, and we can also cover exceptional costs if the travel awarded is for travel to a remote part of the country, but you would need to have clear and full justification of why you are claiming for this. I will just show you again. So as you can see, you've got the number of persons, the description and justification, and the grant for exceptional costs of how much you wish to claim, which can be up to 80% of the actual travel cost under exceptional costs for travel. I will now move on to the next section, which is timetable. So as you can see, all activities entered under learning, teaching and training will automatically be populated in this section, creating a timetable with the dates that have already been entered in the application form. You can also add project, event and tasks. These are those activities that take place as part of the project but are not learning, teaching and training activities. So let's move on to special costs. In special costs, please make sure that you add all special costs for all your partner organisations. Special needs support refers to costs directly relating to participants with disabilities, including participants with special needs and accompanying persons participating in transnational teaching, training and learning activities. Any costs requested under this budget heading must not already be covered by the travel or individual support headings, and will need to be clearly justified in the application. Participants with special needs, even if you are not sure the details, you should enter this now as justification and description and the requested grant. Again, you can add or delete if you've entered the wrong amount, or add another one here. So we briefly covered exceptional costs earlier. The awarding for exceptional costs is not guaranteed. Clear and full justification must be given. Exceptional costs are based on actual costs and must be supported by invoices and receipts at final report stage. So you choose the organisation again, provide a description and clear justification and an estimate of how much funding you need. We will then move on to follow-up. So first of all, we will discuss impact. Impact assessment is the process of examining the effective Erasmus Plus activity on individuals, organisations and society. The effects could be positive or negative, intentional or accidental, short or long term. We have developed our own Erasmus Plus impact exercise to help applicants and projects think about their impact. You can find it on our resources page along with other useful documents and links. Please answer the first 3 questions in as much detail as possible. Again, being aware of the count on the right-hand side for each section. So on to dissemination and use of project results. Dissemination means communicating the project's successes and results as widely as possible. This is an important focus of Erasmus+. Please complete the following questions under dissemination and use of project results referring to page 312 to 317 of the 2020 programme guide. This ensures that project funds enable a wide group of people, organisations and/or communities to benefit, and not just those explicitly named in this application. So on to sustainability. Sustainability can be defined as the potential for the continuation of the project's activities, outcomes and impacts after the Erasmus Plus funding is finished. Sustainability includes, but is not confined to, obtaining further future for funding activities. It can also refer to the integration of results and innovation into the management of participating organisations and ways in which new curricula will be updated. Please explain which aspects of your project you plan to maintain after funding finishes. How will you do this and what resources, including financial resources? How will you use to assure sustainability? You may wish to reference your dissemination activities and use of results described in the previous section. So once you've completed this, you can move on to budget summary. So as you can see here, this section provides an overview of the activity number, activity type, and grant requested for the project. The values shown in the budget summary are calculated automatically on the basis of the values calculated and/or entered in the detailed budget sections. If you miscalculate your budget and request less than you're entitled to, you will only receive the amount requested, up to the amount requested. You must ensure that the budget provided is correct and consistent with the activity described in your application form before submitting your application, as the UK National Agency cannot award any funding above the amount requested at application stage. So you have budget per organisation. And as you can see here, this pre-populated section contains the total grant calculated for each participating organisation with the budget broken down per categories. You will need to check the total received and you're happy with that information. If you are happy with that information, you will go to the project summary. If you're not happy with the information, you would need to go back to the different tabs indicated on the left-hand side and check if they're not accurate and amend as applicable. So on to project summary. Please make sure that you read all the questions or guidance at the start of each section, as this will help you with what is expected in each section of the form. Once you've completed the summary, we will then move on to annexes. In this section, it's really important to download the Declaration of Honour. So I will just click on that now. This is the Declaration of Honour form that needs to be completed, and your legal representative should read through this document, and once they're happy with it, they will have to sign this and put it forward with the application. I'm just going to scroll down to the information that needs to be completed. So here you can see the place field. Now, quite often we have errors where this is not completed correctly. Here you will enter the name of the city, the town where your organisation is based and where this document is being signed. So for example, in this case, we would write Cardiff. They will need to also write the date, the name of the application, and here we have the name of the legal representative, the national identity number. This is not required by the UK National Agency, and also a stamp. If your organisation has a stamp, please stamp it here. If not, just write not applicable. One thing to note, signatures must be original at the point of signing and then scanned. We cannot accept electronic signatures, so please bear in mind that you will need to print this document, get it signed, scanned and uploaded. So do have this document prepared within good time. So I will just go back. So you would upload your Declaration of Honour here. There's also a section here for partner mandates, which can be uploaded here as well, and any other relevant documents that you feel may be required. So go through the list, make sure that you're happy with all the documents that you have. Once you've done this, you've uploaded your Declaration of Honour and there are no warning signs next to annexes, you can go on to the next section. So finally, you have a checklist. So check through all sections are completed, like indicated here. Also complete the data protection notice. So once you've done this and uploaded all your documents, obviously I haven't done those and I still have error message because this is just a test application, then you will be able to submit. You will need to submit before 11 a.m. UK time on the 24th of March 2020. You will then get a message on the page to say that you've submitted your form. Before submitting, we would strongly recommend that you download a PDF version of your application form just by clicking this PDF button here. So that will be your application, and we strongly recommend that you keep a PDF copy for your records, but also double check what is showing on the PDF and the information you've provided on the application form match and you're happy with it before submitting. If you want to share your application, you can share your application here. So when sharing application, you can choose whether you want them to be able to read or able to edit the application. So here you have select application. Please note that any person accessing the form will need an EU login account for the email you have entered. It's very important that it won't show on screen. You will not be able to submit the application whilst it's open with someone you are sharing it with. So this completes the guidance for the application form. Please complete us if you have any further support, and please look at our website as well. And finally, good luck with your application.